I'm your host, Carolyn Solo, LCSW, EMDR therapist, and mom of 3 daughters. Thank you for joining me at the Future Template Parent Podcast. I am your host, Carolyn Solo, LCSW, EMDR therapist, business coach, and mom of 3 daughters. Today, as I sort of teased last week, I am getting a little more personal. I'm sharing about some big changes in my work and family life in 2024. And how many of the practice shifts I've made over the past couple of years are what have allowed me to make this big change. So what is happening? Well, in July of 2024, beginning of July, my family is moving 7 hours away from where we live now. We are moving from the suburbs of Philadelphia, just outside of Philly. Like I can walk 5 minutes and cross the border into Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a major metropolitan area, as you know. And we are moving to a rural town in the state of Vermont. Yep, that is right. We are completely uprooting our life, our work lives, our family life, and making a huge change. Well, why are we doing this? Well, my husband and I have been talking about this for years. And we really got serious about it during early COVID. And we have been planning and working and saving and figuring out logistics, and we're finally doing it. And it's so exciting. My husband's family lives in Minnesota, and my family is from New England. My parents live in the Boston suburbs. So Pennsylvania was never home to either of us, although we've both lived here a long time. I've been here since 2008, and my husband has been here since 2006. So I moved to Philly when I was 27 in 2008, and my husband in 2006 was 30, 29, something like that. Long time ago. I love the Philadelphia area. I used to really love the Philadelphia area. In my 20s and mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, I thought I would live here forever. Then we had our first child when I was 36. And by the time she was a year old, guess what? We had done our urban flight thing and lived in the suburbs and moved to the suburbs. And then child 2 and child 3 also came along. My oldest is 7, my middle is 5, and my youngest is 2. Child 2 was born in fall of 2018, and child 3 in July of 2021, smack dab in the middle of COVID. It was post-vaccine, July 2021, and things had improved significantly. But, I was pregnant from November of 2020. So, I was pregnant in the height of COVID. I got vaccinated while I was pregnant. Anyway, as our family continued to expand, we both became clearer and clearer that we wanted to raise our family somewhere with a much slower pace of life. Like Philadelphia is a major metropolitan area with all that implies. There's a ton of stuff here to do and resources and offerings and stuff. There's also a ton of traffic, a ton of sprawl, a ton of stress, a ton of people. My husband has never liked city life. Like he is not a city person. I always considered myself to be a city person. Always, I guess, starting in my, once I graduated from college, I guess. So maybe not for that long, but, I really thought I was a city person. But, parenting changes you in so many ways. And actually working from home during COVID allowed us, a small taste. I mean, of course, with the kid thing, it was not an easy time by any means, but we did get a taste of what it was like not to be rushing out the door constantly, to be away from home from 8 o'clock to 7 p.m. No commuting, no traffic, eating our lunch at home, exercising at 1 o'clock because we had a break, there were some things about that period that felt a little bit more humane. I mean, and of course, not to ignore at all the suffering that happened during COVID and is continuing to happen. However, there were things about it where I think we all were like, wait, I would love to never have to wear pants out of the house again. We did have some moments of like, there are things about this slower pace of life that are appealing. So yeah, that there was appealing stuff about that. And we also just hated the fact that when we did get back to the regular pace of life and I guess my husband went back to work in the office in June of 2021. I went back in November of 2021 at the end of my maternity leave. And we were back to that gone all day, rushing, get the kids out the door. Oh my gosh, this, that, the other, get the lunches, blah, blah, blah. And we did not want to live that way again. At this point, we had already been talking for a year almost about how we're going to do this. I also wanted to be closer to my parents as they age. Like currently it's a 6 to 7 hour drive from where I am, traffic dependent, to get from Philly to Boston, and it's a miserable drive. It's all some of the busiest highways in the country, the New Jersey Turnpike, 95 through Connecticut and New York City, 90 and 128 in Massachusetts. If you live in any of these places, you know that those roads are pretty awful. The traffic can easily turn a 6-hour drive into 8 hours. I think I'm probably going to do that drive one more time this spring, and I will be so thrilled that that's the last time I'm doing it. That will be more than enough. I would be happy to never do it again. But it's way too long of a drive to get to Boston quickly if my parents need me. My parents are 78. My mom is quite healthy. My dad's health has there's some real concerns, and I just want to be able to be more present for them and to be able to get to them if they need me. Getting to their house from where we live in Vermont will be like just under 3 hours. I can do that easily overnight. I can drive down, stay overnight, do what go to an appointment with somebody and then come back. I can do that if it's a 3-hour drive. If it's a 6 or 7 hour drive, that's a 3-day trip at least. And the driving is exhausting. It's hard, miserable driving. And then Vermont has always been kind of a second home for me. As kids, when I was a kid, we went there a few times a year for vacation and various things. It's so beautiful. It's like paradise to me. I love the outdoors. I love being active. I love to ski. I love to run. I love to hike. I love to mountain bike. I love to cross country ski. I love to snowshoe. All those things you can do there. I love the slower pace of life, the focus on community, the easy access to the outdoors, the focus on sustainability and caring for the environment. It just feels like a really healthy place to raise our kids. And it feels like a place where we can actually slow down the pace of our lives and really be a family instead of seeing each other on the weekends only when we're all so exhausted that we're not being our best selves anyway, and not being able to pick up our kids from school and all those things. And since my husband and I were engaged, I kind of introduced him to Vermont a little bit. We've been going, he loves it. He's a mountain biker. He's a skier. He loves it up there. We've been going there twice a year on vacation. So our kids know it really well. This is a place they know. But this is huge, obviously. Not just from like a logistical perspective, moving, right? It sucks. And I'm already looking around my house being like, what the hell am I doing? How am I going to do this? But professionally, of course, and for our kids, right? It's a big deal on all those fronts. I'm going to be shutting down my practice. Well, sort of. I'm going to be giving up my office, not renting my office. My lease ends March 31st, and I'll be done with my office. And whatever, I have some plans for how I'm going to manage those last few months here, but a lot of it will be virtual. I might rent an office space day here, day there for an intensive as needed. Thankfully, it's easy to transition my PA license to a Vermont license. Well, not transition, but keep my PA social work license and add on Vermont. Vermont does not make it difficult, just a few pieces of paper and $100. Regardless, though, no matter what, I am taking all of June, July, and August completely off. I'm not seeing clients. I'm not doing any work of any kind. Well, client work, face-to-face, one-to-one therapy work, but other kinds of work will be happening. But yeah, but I need to be completely present for the kids as to help get them through the move, make this transition, settled into their new schools. All of this is really big. I need to be focusing exclusively on them and on this transition, period. I cannot have my mind in 3 different places being oh, but I have a client at 2 and a client at 4. No, I know that even 2 clients a day when I'm trying to be really present for my kids, it's hard to do both. So no, I'm just saying that's it. I'm not working those 3 months. And I know I need to be there for them. My oldest, my 7-year-old, who has the PDA profile of autism, which is the pathological demand avoidance, or I prefer to call it persistent demand avoidance. So we told our kids the week before Christmas about the move, and my oldest had a really hard time with it. Change is really hard. for all kids, but for a kid like her, it's particularly painful and overwhelming. We're working through it, and we talk about it whenever she wants to and however she wants to. And she has her therapist who she's been seeing for 2 years now. And her therapist is very aware of the situation, and her school knows, so we're doing the best we can to support her, but we know it's a really big change. And, this will be the last time we move. And so we're sort of like, let's do it sooner than later. This is very much where my husband and I intend to retire, as hard as that is to contemplate right now. But yeah, that's the plan. And my PDA kid, my oldest, is particularly upset about changing schools. She has grown so much. She's in first grade. And I've talked about in other episodes how starting kindergarten was such a massive transition for her. It was just so much. It was real. We were really scared of how it was going to go. It actually went much better than we expected, but it was pretty bumpy the first few months. She was having really difficult moments several times a day, every day, 20, 30-minute meltdowns. I hate the word meltdown. I hate the word tantrum, but that's, what I'm talking about. I mean, they were totally understandable responses for her overwhelmed nervous system. And we knew that was going to happen, but we wanted to have her at school. So first grade has been incredible. And the second half of kindergarten was so much better than the first. And first grade has been she's had maybe 3 meltdowns this whole year, as opposed to having at least one a day. Right. And she loves her school. She absolutely loves her school. And so she's devastated to hear she'll be leaving. And of course, that broke my heart, but I knew that was going to happen. So I was sort of steeling myself for it. The day we told her, right afterwards, she took her drawing pad. She loves to draw, and that's one of her primary means of processing emotions, which is awesome. And she drew a house with our family members and drew hearts everywhere. And above it, she wrote, "Philly is home." And I cried, and she cried, and I held her. I just held her for a long time. Then we ordered 5 guys for dinner because that's what she wanted. And we're continuing to process, but suffice to say, I'm going to need to be present for her. And of course, for my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old as well. My 5-year-old's handling the news well so far. And of course, my 2-year-old has no idea, but there's still going to be bumps along the way as this all becomes very real, of course. And of course, I'm giving up my office that I've had for 2 years that I've really loved so much. The office in which I built my intensive practice. I had been in private practice before, but this was the first office I'd rented for myself. And so that feels sad, but also liberating. And also I can think about how much I've grown in this time. When I started renting that space, I was still a traditional hour-long, 50-minute EMDR therapist, right? And now I'm an intensive EMDR therapist. That's what I am. So much growth has happened there, and it feels okay to outgrow it. And it feels like it's time to really, in a really concrete way, leave this office behind. Symbolically, I'm outgrowing it in a lot of ways. And because I've made such huge strides in my income over the past year as a result of intensives, it's totally manageable for me not to work for several months. And to build up my intensive practice in Vermont in a way that feels good and sustainable to me. I'm going to have some other streams of income, but the one-to-one therapy, much reduced, greatly reduced. And yeah, I'm really excited to have a reset and build the practice exactly the way I want it to be up in Vermont. Over these past few years, I've learned so much about what works for me and what doesn't in how I practice in terms of schedule, hours per week, my niche clients, my preferred intensive model. And I know that I can get clients that will be willing to work in that model. I've done it here and I can do it again. I've done a lot of the hard groundwork and the mindset work. It's exciting actually and not scary. I'm excited to build relationships in a new place with new people to have referred to me and stuff like that. All the work I've put in over the past few years to build this practice has taught me so much. I'm not losing anything. I've gained so much. I am going to keep a few hourly clients virtually after that break, certain special cases. But other than that, my schedule is going to be completely open to make it whatever I want it to be. And a couple of weeks ago in an episode, I was talking about taking a week off each month in 2024. Obviously, I'm doing that and then some. I didn't want to like spoil the big reveal of this episode and the move when I was talking about that. But like the idea generally is I need to make more space for myself. And I was inviting other people to do the same. And I can do that thanks to the flexibility and high value of intensives. I know someone who's an intensive therapist who does intensives 6 months of the year and then travels. She does some like trainings at different places and stuff, but for the most part, she's traveling and she can do that. There's such like freedom in this model. You can make it whatever you want it to be. I'm also excited to ponder the possibility of like full-on retreat intensives when we move. Like Vermont is a beautiful vacation destination at different times of year for different things. And I'm excited. And there's so many like practitioners up there who do massage and Reiki and acupuncture and sound baths and all those things. Like there's just so many people like that up there. And, you know, I'm excited to like create like a retreat like experience for someone where there's a fair amount of EMDR therapy, but there's also massage, Reiki, acupuncture, whatever. Creating these several day retreat packages. And I'm really excited to collaborate with other practitioners up there. That's also going to be how I meet people, how I make friends, how I feel connected to the community. It feels very organic to me. I love the idea of people coming to Vermont from other places and they stay for a week. Like we find Airbnbs or whatever. And we do all these different services. They can like create this boutique package for themselves. I also really want to integrate like outdoor activities and movement into my EMDR intensives. You know, cross-country skiing, that's bilateral stimulation. You know, I'm really excited. You know, I've read about that a little bit. There are people doing outdoor nature intensives, not a lot of them. And I really want to investigate that more and really market to, you know, like urban areas in the Northeast where people would find it doable to get to Vermont and also really appealing. Like, wow, I'm going to go away for a week and have this luxurious experience where I'm really taking care of myself in so many ways. So that is where I'm headed, I think. And don't know exactly how that's all going to take shape, but I'm going to take you all along for the ride. You can see me work this out as I do it. So yeah, thanks for listening to this more personal episode, updating you on all the big plans I have for my family and my practice in 2024. It's a little overwhelming, but it's happening for sure. There's no way around it. It's happening now. I'm going to talk in more detail next week about the group program that I'm going to be launching later in 2024. This will also align well with these new directions I'm taking in life in terms of timing and scheduling. Not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but it's something I've been thinking about for a long time that I'm also going to get off the ground in 2024. So you'll be part of that process, hearing me, you know, work my way through it. And as always, if you want to contact me or get on my email list or work with me, www.futuretemplateparent.com to find out everything you need to know, and follow me on Instagram at futuretemplateparent. Please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And I can't wait to have you join me for the next episode, and I will catch you then. Have a great week.